You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/day to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/day for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Are you a movie buff? Do you love dissecting and analyzing your favorite films? Look no further than the Projection Booth podcast. Join host Mike White and a bevy of guest experts as they explore the history, themes, and legacy of cult classics, obscure gems, and mainstream hits. Join us every week for a unique and engaging look at your favorite movies. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and tune in to the Projection Booth podcast. Available on all major podcast platforms.
Weird Way Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bollywood Cinema Club. I am the host of the Culture Cast, Chris Stachiw. On every episode of the Bollywood Cinema Club, we take a look at a Bollywood movie, or better, an Indian cinema film. On this episode of the Bollywood Cinema Club, I am joined by two good friends of mine, all the way from the Scary Stories We Tell podcast, one of the co-hosts over there, Jess Byard.
Hello.
And also, I would say more or less from Scary Stories We Tell, though you can hear their body of work over on the Weirding Way Media podcast network and over at dolanmuseum.com. They're a pretty cool dude. Maggie Byard.
Oh, wait, thank you. Hey, guys.
So there is kind of a more underlying theme outside of the fact that the three of us are friends. The three of us are on the most downloaded episode of the Culture Cast, which was on an Indian cinema film that I think is, I mean, obviously it's one of the more popular, if not one of the most popular Indian cinemas ever made, DDLJ, featuring, just half of the cast of this movie.
Yeah.
So I figured at some point, Jess and I are eventually going to circle back around to 2.0, the Entheron sequel for this show, because we talked about Robo or Entheron on the Culture Cast. But I figured, why not get the three of us together to talk about the second spiritual sequel to DDLJ, because Kuch Kuch Hota Hai came in between these two movies, and it's just DDLJ again in a lot of ways. I don't know how else to explain it other than SRK gets married to, I want to say it's Rani Mukherjee, who plays the chick at the beginning of this movie. They get married, they have a kid, she dies, and then he goes and falls back in love with Kajol, the actress from DDLJ, the actress from this movie that he falls in love with. Sound kind of like DDLJ? Yeah, it kind of is. Which brings us to this movie, K3G, otherwise known as Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, otherwise known as Sometimes Happiness, Sometimes Sadness. It is the second spiritual sequel to DDLJ, primarily because it has SRK, Kajol. It also has Jaya Bachchan and Farida Jalal as well. I mean, there are plenty of returning faces from DDLJ in this movie and from Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, along with the injection of some other big names, including Kareena Kapoor, Hrithik Roshan, and obviously Big B himself, Amitabh Bachchan as the patriarch of the Raichand family. And the film is about the Raichand family, including Yash, played by Amitabh Bachchan, and Jaya Bachchan, playing Nandya Chandra Raichand, his wife. They have one adopted son, played by SRK, who plays Rahul, and one biological son, Rohan, played by Hrithik Roshan. And wouldn't you know it, SRK gets in trouble by falling in love with Kajol, who plays Anjali, a lower socioeconomic group.
Ordinary girl, I think is what his dad called her.
Yeah, simple. I mean, again, she's the caste system doesn't exist in 2001, but that's kind of what they're playing on here, is it different socioeconomic levels. And SRK falls in love with Kajol, and they get married against the will of his father. And wouldn't you know it, he gets essentially excommunicated from the family. We jump forward, and the younger brother, played by Hrithik Roshan, goes to London to find his brother and his sister-in-law and bring them back because, well, their parents are getting older, and he sees it as his mission to bring the family back together. So yeah, that's a pretty long setup. This movie is 3.5 hours long, which I think we're going to have things to say about that, as much as I'm sure the three of us may have liked this movie. But Maggie, I'm going to give the floor to you. None of us had seen this film before watching it for this. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on KKKG, or K3G, probably the easiest way for us to call it. So we don't have to say KKKG, which doesn't sound great.
Yeah, especially for us Western audience.
Yeah, primarily for the Western audience and almost no one else. So...
man. I mean, honestly, I'm always tickled that Indian cinema leans so heavily onto musicals. Because I will say that's probably my favorite part about this movie, especially when it's hard not to do the compare contrast thing with DDL. Because especially when they say it's a spiritual successor, I think it's more like a sister film or something like that. It's almost like equal opposites. I did get a little misty-eyed because I do feel for the parental figures, not the abandoning part necessarily, but my mom's currently going through a phase where it's I wish we could have Christmases with everybody again. And it's oh Jesus, I'm gonna die. It's so sad. But I mean, the music's still really good in this. 3.5 is a stretch, but I don't think it was outlandishly so. There's definitely parts they could have trimmed a good chunk of the fat. I think it does meander a bit. And boy, there's only so many times I can see the this person backwards thumb jab in an entire movie. That happens so often, you could almost make a drinking game.
Or every time a fan appears to blow.
Yes.
Their hair has to be perfect, Jess. Okay. I don't know what you're expecting. These are good-looking people looking good all the time.
I mean, that is true. That is a fact.
That is a selling point of these Indian romantic comedies. It's no different than our rom-coms, right? I would wager the folks in these movies, they look perfect even more so than the ones in our movies do. I mean, come on.
We even do the fat shaming too.
Yeah.
It's amazing how...
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
That works. That's my favorite character too. I have to say, Rohan I was rooting for, because of course it's Judas Priest. Let them stay separated, Rohan. What the hell do you have to give these people?
He wants to bring them back together. So, Jess, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on K3G.
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny because I don't really care for Western rom-coms, in the slightest. And I think I think now that I've watched a couple of Indian rom-com, I've realized why. It's that Western rom-coms take themselves too seriously throughout the entire movie. And in these, like, the cheesiness and hamminess of it feels known. Like, they know what they're doing. They're putting on this show, and I appreciate that.
They're audio stingers when characters are talking. They get it. Like, they're not doing that in American cinema. That audio stinger thing is so not a thing that has any place, like, at least in our contemporary American cinema.
Right. So yeah, I enjoyed this film. I'll admit that, like, the first hour and a half dragged really, really long. And I was getting to a point where I'm like, oh man, am I not, like, I want to like this movie. I do, because I did. Obviously, I like DDLJ, and I liked the actors that are in that and in this one a lot. And it did finally pick up, I think, after we hit the time jump, which made it a bit more entertaining for me after a while. But yeah, I would have trimmed a fair amount of this movie down, because it is, the plot, I mean, is what it is, what we've discussed. And it's not something that needs to be drug out as long as it is. And perhaps that's coming from Western sensibilities. But even I really like the musical aspects of it too. I didn't love everything about these specific musical acts as much as I did in DDLJ. I could have definitely done without a few of the ones that were in this. But yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to me that I will sit through a 3.5 hour Indian rom-com, but I'm not gonna sit through a 90-minute American rom-com without someone like mandating I do.
or unless it had, like, a specific actor in it.
Right.
Like some of those 90s ones with, like, Bill Pullman and Sandy B and stuff, I'm kind of more on board. Because those are like campy and cheesy and very not the serious that you're talking about, which kind of, that is a thing that has become more prevalent now with rom-coms, is they just they don't want to be funny.
No.
Which is strange, because, like, I remember, I mean, my family was big on, like, the really goofy Western rom-coms, like, I don't know, 50 First Dates and shit, where it could kind of strike a bit of a balance, where it's like, this kind of does in a better manner at that point. Because you do have the big, serious, like, emotional scenes, and they seem to translate really well, especially side by side with the comedic stuff. It's a different type of comedy, but it still flows really well. And I know sometimes that is contributed to the amount of time that we're exposed to these characters.
Yes.
So it's kind of a win some, lose some, because you have to have, like, really succinct writing and understanding of your characters to get away with a 90-minute script that can accomplish the same thing. It's just hard to strike that balance.
Yeah, you definitely do spend a lot more time with these characters and therefore end up feeling a bit more connected to them. Just like if you're watching a TV show or something that's extended period of time where you're actually with these characters versus a 90-minute, very formulaic, we have to hit this beat.
Have to be good if you're going to try and do both, because it's really hard to do both.
Right.
Well, and I mean, again, to that point, I think I've said this before multiple times on this show now. I always feel like in most of these films, even the ones I haven't been the biggest fan of, by the end of the movie, these are fully formed, fully realized characters. And again, like you mentioned, Jess, you spend so much time with them that you can't help but really get invested in them. And I think that... Right. I was thinking about it as I was watching this film, and there's something about this film that feels oddly Shakespearean in a way. Like the story, it's this kind of grand story of the one son leaves, and then he leaves with his wife and her daughter, or her sister, and then his younger brother meets the sister later in life, and they don't know each other, and he knows. It just feels very grand, right? It's this whole grand interconnectivity of just these characters, not in the grand scheme of the world. I mean, these are just one family in India. There's no world stakes here. No. That all being said, like, I think for me, DDLJ, obviously still the movie that resonates more with me. Just to get that out of the way, it's
100%.
Yeah, and it has it has the better music acts. It has, I think it has a better overall approach to the storytelling, but it doesn't really, it has an emotional core, but the emotional core is really centered around, SRK and Kajol, and then Om Puri's character of the father and the mother character. In this movie, they have to spread it out more. And I appreciate that because they do land it. I mean, it's not that they don't land it. It's just like we've already kind of mentioned, it's 3.5 hours long. They have so much ground that they need to cover. And I think, rightfully so, I think it's too much ground. I think there are there's probably a half an hour on both acts of the movie, or kind of the early, the pre time jump and post time jump. There's probably a half an hour of each of those that they could take out and take about an hour out. Yeah, and like you mentioned, Maggie, there's some of the acts in this, some of the musical numbers in this film aren't very memorable. But all that aside, I mean, I caught myself crying at the end of this movie, obviously. I mean, like it strikes to an emotional core of something different than DDLJ. This is, this story really is about the relationship between fathers and sons more primarily than anything else. I mean, and that's, again, none of us are Indian, but we have our own Western kind of constructs of familial relations and expectations. But
absolutely,
obviously it's well known. I grew up with plenty of kids in high school who were from Southeast Asia or from India, and some of their parents have stricter expectations from them, both, ethnic expectations regarding who they can marry, who they can't marry, all kinds of stuff. So that's the one thing that I personally can't understand about this movie any more than any of us really can, because that's not the culture we grew up in. But I think even in spite of the kind of specific cultural aspect of the movie that we can't directly appreciate, I think the movie's message is broad enough and well executed enough that I'm with you, Jess. It's 3.5 hours, but I watched the whole thing in one sitting. Yep. I didn't walk away at any point and come back and do something else. 3.5 hours is a big ask.
Mm-hmm. It can be. I mean, I'm an opera nerd and I like the classics like Lawrence of Arabia with an intermission slapped in the middle. So the time restraint doesn't necessarily affect me too much. That's normally reserved for like epic story. Like, is this an epic story? That's my question. Like, that's why I said it feels Shakespearean in a way. So kind of grandiose. Exactly going to be my point. As you just said, it was Shakespearean. It definitely echoes, and it's kind of archival in that. And the thing that I appreciate about this movie as opposed to DDL is that there isn't a specific villain. It's more of a clash of perspective and understanding. And that's the whole movie, is trying to get everybody on the same page, whether it's essentially through what would have been a complete stranger if, Rohan didn't, pose as a stranger.
Right.
So, I mean, I do like that. With DDL, there's kind of like the just the villain trope where it's like you have to kind of beat the boss level, and he did, and it was amazing, and everybody was friends again. But with this one, it wrestles with those complex emotions of you love this person, even though they aren't fitting the expectations and perspective that you had on them, and kind of to move past that and understand that it is their life and you can still exist in it to that facet. I mean, that's what struck me, and I really do like that.
Well, I'm with you. I think that's kind of why this works. I mean, it works in my mind just as well as DDLJ, but it doesn't have. It's not. I don't know. I feel like it just gets wrapped up in its own narrative and kind of just giving you more of the characters and more. I don't know. Like I feel like when
finesse to it as well.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, more isn't necessarily always better, and I feel like that is the earlier takeaway for me. Just when you watch the movie as a whole, you don't need all of the stuff early on. It just feels like a lot.
Yeah.
And it does feel a bit repetitive throughout, as we we do spend a lot of time with these characters. I do like all of these characters, for better or worse. Like, yes, they're flawed, but ultimately most everybody comes out pretty reasonable and, understanding of each other, which is what you would want to see of a story like this, dealing with, such a tight-knit family group that, you don't want to see them not work it out at the end. But I think throughout, it just feels like we kind of relearn the same things over and over about certain characters. And it's not, necessarily not entertaining in how we do, but it seems unnecessary and kind of drags everything out longer than it to. Also, I never need that London montage ever again in my life.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's just, some of the stuff just feels like an excessive choice. Just like we need some establishing shots of London, or I would contend it's probably one musical number too many.
Yeah, there were a few that could have been cut short at the very least.
Raining Men.
I wanted to ask about that. This is 2001?
Yeah.
Raining Men came out in the mid 80s?
Yeah, but what I'm guessing is it's 2001. It's London. And disco didn't die around there like it did here, and still in clubs and stuff like that. I'm sure that was like a hit mix at some point in time later on.
Disco died?
Not for you.
It's just so funny. That song came out in 79.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
It's the first time I watched the movie, I just remember she goes, it's Raining Men. I was like, whoa, like this, what? Who?
Hold on.
Well, it's also kind of fun to see, we mentioned speaking as Westerners, it's fun to see how other countries view Westerners and how they put them together, and what pop culture references are the ones that they choose to go with.
That click. Yeah.
Well, that wouldn't have been the one that I would have thought that they would go with.
No, right?
Yeah. But Jess, you mentioned, some of the characters. So obviously, this is the way to describe this movie to someone who is a Westerner who maybe doesn't know the scope of the actors like Amitabh and Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol and Hrithik Roshan. That's like Brad Pitt and George Clooney, and then Brad Pitt and George Clooney all like cloned them twice.
Right.
That's the
that's
that's
musical Ocean's 11.
Yeah, it's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of having like your biggest male and female actors in the industry in your movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's all your top hottest of hot celebrities of the time.
Yeah. Who also happen to be very talented actors. It's not just, someone who's just, they're famous for being famous. I mean, Amitabh in this movie is he's one half of the emotional core of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say, between him and SRK. I mean, I think my favorite character in the movie, and I think my favorite performance in the movie, is Hrithik Roshan as Rohan, because he's such a charismatic actor.
Yeah, always. Every fucking time.
And I don't know, everything about his performance is just so, it's interesting that he's the second act's main character, because he's not in the first act of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first act of the movie suffers for not having him in it.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
Immensely. Like, nothing against the actor who plays the young version of the character, but when you actually get Hrithik Roshan on screen up against, SRK and Kajol and, the whole who is he, but they don't know. Yep. I think that works really well, because again, you get to see some unintentional and intentional comedy coming from the script, but also just two actors. One, I mean, again, they're both still working. Of course they are. I would say two really fantastic actors, not even in their prime, just two of the biggest names in Indian cinema working opposite one another. One of them very early on in his career too.
No joke. Right.
But I don't know, everything about this movie, again, it has all the right parts. I wish they had been a little bit more judicious with the scope of what the expectations were for the story that they were telling.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they try and cover a lot of ground. And I mean, for the most part, I think it translates well. It's just, I was kind of baffled, considering DDL had so many like pristine like transitions into the musical numbers. It seems like this one, it was a bit clunkier.
Yeah, they just there wasn't a lot of flow to getting you to them. They all just kind of started. You're like, all right.
Yeah, there were some clever sequences within the music numbers that had a lot of charisma and detail to it. But I can't get over the fucking piano scene in DDL.
I know.
That's like the epitome. That was so, like, the lead in was great. The action during carried the story. Some of these, it was more of like the woo, we're happy party songs, as opposed to moving the plot forward songs, which they still have an abundance of. It's just the ones kind of drag the other down sometimes.
And I think that's kind of what I mean about the repetitiveness, where it's like, yeah, the music, you said that and it clicked, and I'm like, yeah, the musical sequences in DDL seem to move the plot along a lot smoother and a lot more fun than the way this one did. It just kind of, the musical sequence,
it's tricky
to move anything forward. It just kind of reestablished what we kind of already got that was already happening.
It's kind of why I hate Pagliacci as an opera, especially during like the show scene, because everybody's going, gasp, what's going on? We're going to start the show. They're starting the show. Everybody, they're starting the show. And it gets really
got it.
Well, and, you know, if you think about the music from DDLJ, there are no repeat tracks in DDLJ. Throughout this movie, there is the Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham music that comes back over and over. But that's what y'all, I know exactly what y'all are talking about. There's the leather act. There's the leather. I don't know what other they call it. The song where they're singing in leather, which that I think for me, the best song in the movie is I think it's probably the act that they put on at the beginning, the Say Shava Shava at the party.
I was gonna say the exact same thing.
100%.
Right? Because it's Amitabh singing and dancing, and he's so goddamn charismatic. You give him anything to do and he will nail it. But it also incorporates more or less the entire cast, other than the two actors who come back later.
Yes.
Which is pretty rough considering that's like within the first 45 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. I think frankly, my biggest, issue other than the length of the movie really does kind of cut to the storytelling mechanic that they use with the time jump. I mean, that is why the movie is 3 hours long. It's because they have a before and after time jump, and they're roughly, I guess the before is like an hour and then the after is like 2.5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it might even be like a little bit like an hour and a half for the first half, because that felt pretty, I don't remember. It felt like the first, like I said, for me, the first half is what drug on the most, and the second half is more
where the meat was.
Sure. Yeah.
So the pre-time jump is 1 hour and 40 minutes of 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That's a lot. That's even more now. That needed to be probably only an hour or only 45 minutes. Like, I don't know.
If it had been 45 minutes to an hour, I think that this would have been a much tighter, faster pace. Because like for what this movie wants to do, and like how you said it, so it feels like it is grand. It does feel in part like a hero's journey, and it just doesn't have the momentum constant, that you need to kind of propel that forward. Like it wants to be, it does. It has that energy, and everybody in the cast has that energy. But
you have to hit the beats faster, otherwise it's gonna be really wonky of the flow.
Yes.
Well, so the first hour and 40 minutes, I think the three of us would agree, that's SRK and Kajol, right?
Yes.
And then the second half of the movie, it theoretically, well, not even the next half of the movie. I guess you could say the second act is Hrithik Roshan and Kareena Kapoor's movie. And then the third act is everybody's movie together.
Yeah. Like after the sad happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say that my favorite act in the movie is probably the second act. I'm just not a huge fan of the first act of this movie.
No. Yeah, they could have done a couple things differently. The one thing I would miss from the first act would be that number. That's about where I stand on that. That was a good menagerie where they like kind of showcased the dynamics. If they just had that as the opening pass thing and just jammed a couple extra things in, I think that would have been succinct.
Right. Well, like link everybody up in your first part, who needs to be linked up. That's going to continue on later.
Yeah.
Like, I get it with the kids bullying Rohan.
Everybody.
True. But that, like those bits with the kids did also seem to drag out a bit. Like you could have just done one, introduced that girl, connected the families, boom.
But then they had a whole musical act at the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The first act is a lot. It's just, it goes on and on and on. I mean, it's not terrible. Yeah. It's just
no, and I get why, I get because ultimately what we're leading up to here is, a big family disconnection that ultimately does cost one of the main characters pretty heavily in while being disconnected from them. So we're leading up to this big, reunion between them, this understanding of, like the title says, sometimes sadness, sometimes that's how it is with families. And ultimately that's this entire movie. And so I get wanting to spend a lot more time with the family to really invest everyone into the family so that when it does break apart for the time that it breaks apart, it's a lot more heavy. And it does, it did hit me too. When that finally happened, even though I was kind of can we get this first act over with? Let's go. When he gets, disowned, it's oh my God, that's one of the most the harshest ways of saying I'm disappointed in you I have ever heard. And no one wants to hear the I'm disappointed. Please be mad. Don't be disappointed.
The scenes between Amitabh and SRK in this movie are just heart-wrenching. And,
they're intense.
Yeah, it's a masterclass in two actors who are two of the biggest actors of all time on the planet, frankly. And they're in a room together and they're just delivering these emotional haymakers into each other and not stopping. And it is, the scene, like you mentioned, Jess, about almost 2 hours into the movie, where the entire relationship falls apart, is a really interesting setup for what we end up getting at the end of the movie and kind of the payoff, right? Because that's the setup and then there's the payoff at the end. But they're just so emotionally charged that they're really hard to watch. They are.
It's like seeing a family fight happening, in real life. Yeah. Well, and especially considering the level of the adopted son didn't know he was adopted, and then he gets hit with this giant brick of you are legit disowned. And we can do that because you weren't actually my real son. And it's just kind of really, it's so harsh. It's bad.
Yeah. And for, you really want to hate his dad in that moment because for what? Because he wants to or did marry a girl whose family, I guess, had less money, but still seemed pretty okay. I don't know. Everybody seemed very flash this movie. So I didn't really the difference in class
didn't quite translate.
It didn't. It really didn't. They seemed pretty on level to me visually. And so really the only context we get in that is, dialogue between them. But you want to hate him because it's just such a bullshit reason.
But at the same time, I mean, again, I mean, obviously as three people who are more in the camp of SRK's character in this movie of kind of, I don't get it. I don't understand, whatever. These familial expectations or societal or cultural expectations are not something I care about or want to, deal with. The dad is written so believably. That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, again, absolutely. I can only imagine being someone whose dad was like this, and not, I mean, again, because I'm sure we all have issues with our own fathers, or everybody does in some respect. And
Maggie doesn't. Dudley's perfect. Dudley's perfect.
Dudley.
He's weird. Yeah.
Dudley. Well, with a name like that, what is there to say? There can't be anything mean to say about Dudley.
But I do get it. Just not my dad. I love my dad.
But, I mean, again, that's the thing that's hard to really understand about this movie as a Westerner, just the cultural expectations, because we don't have them. At least the three of us don't. The three of us don't have them the way Rahul does in this movie, even as the adopted son. I mean, imagine, Rohan's position of he's the biological, then you have the expectations for him, which I like that his character kind of never really lets those expectations seemingly get to him. He kind of becomes the emotional fun center of the movie. He's always smiling, always happy. He's not, SRK in the second half of the movie kind of takes a back seat, which is perfectly fine. But His character also kind of seems like more of a dick in the second half of the movie.
Yeah, well, I mean,
after all of that, you got better
too, probably.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, the equivalent would be I've known plenty of people that I went to high school with that got disowned for coming out as gay, and it's like, oh wow. Some have reconciled, others have just went off and never came back.
I will say though, I'm not the biggest fan of the character that Kareena Kapoor.
No, that really was hard to.
Yeah, it's like Alicia Silverstone from Clueless, right? Like that's kind of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of that. It's kind of a little bit. It's a little bit of that.
It's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of, I'm sure, of the time, like a Paris Hilton vibe or whatever. Like just that, like trying, because this is at the time where, you know, we're trying. It's 2001.
Yeah.
It's 2001. They're, you know, this is what Westerners are into, right? Like,
well, especially when you're talking about posh versus like upper middle class, I guess. Right. Or the dynamic of the families. So of course you have to have like that kind of simple life.
Yeah,
vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just yeah, it's really obnoxious to sit through.
Yeah, her character is really overwritten, I think is the best way to put it. Like it just I don't, and she, you know, I like her. I've seen her in other things. I am not a huge fan of this role, just primarily because she's so annoying. Her character is written so just kind of, it's just not much of a character, really.
Yeah, it's very
one-dimensionally.
It's a caricature, and she's doing good. She's doing well with what they gave her, but it's not a good character, really.
It doesn't quite have the Silverstone charm of Clueless, where you can have the Valley Girl, but she can also be smart.
Yeah.
But this is just exactly. I think they were really gunning for that to be like a nice comedic crutch to lean on, when really there's just like so much other like charm in that film that could have handled some of the weight instead of them throwing lines at this girl.
Right.
Well, and I find it kind of hard to see what someone who is kind of just wholesomely good as Rohan sees in her as a character. When he can see her sister in the same scene, who's like kind of like the you know, like she's written so kind of perfectly. Again, Kajol is as kind of just, you know, she's just kind of a klutz, but also a lovable klutz who just, you know, speaks her mind, and she's so goddamn lovable for it. But then you have her sister who's just sets your teeth on edge.
Mm-hmm. Tale as old as time. There's the good one and the annoying one.
They're really, really, really annoying.
Oh shoot! I think I'm the annoying one then.
No,
I got the charm.
I love that.
I don't know how you could be this annoyed.
No.
When your catchphrase is "Hallelujah" from "It's Raining Men," I think, you know.
Shit! I am the annoying one, guys. It's me.
But you're not like the Barbie, like that. Like she's all like her personality is just makeup, clothes, boys.
She is a female character written by. She is a idealized female character written by a man.
That's actually every single female role in Western movies in the 2000s of the early aughts. You know, it's like no, that's girl like fashion.
Yeah, she has like a small purse and a tube top and a short skirt. Yeah, it's like the idealized Western woman. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm surprised she didn't have a little toy dog.
Right, in a purse.
Yeah.
Next time. There's always the next one.
But it's not played for like parody or for contrasting and comparing. It's played seriously, which is the problem. That's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for some reason, out of all of that character is the one that seems the least on purpose, like cheesy on purpose, where it's like, no, this is who she is.
Yeah, because every scene that she's in is just the same thing. It's like, oh, he's so hot. I wonder what he's doing. Oh, later, nerd. Like, that's pretty much like half of her dialogue in just some sort of, you know, version or variety of that, just over and over again. And again, Kareena Kapoor, fantastic actress. So it's not her. It's
a weird role.
Well,
it's just not a good character. It's a character that maybe didn't need to be such a main part of the story at that point.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, you know, the question obviously is with that character in the movie, you know, there's so much of the second and third act that has to do with that character because she's the one who's getting married to, you know, Rohan, SRK's brother. If you just take that character out of the movie and it's just the story of the brother going back to London to get his other brother,
it would have worked.
Yeah.
It would have been much better, I think. I don't think we also needed that secondary love.
Oh, the double wedding?
Yeah. Like, I don't.
Why did we didn't?
Yeah. These are big events. All right. Like, that's a lot.
I love how rushed that was. Funeral wedding. Boom.
I think that also, if we didn't have that love interest second wedding aspect, that part wouldn't have been wouldn't have felt as brushed by. It wouldn't, like you said, been a story, like Chris said, a story of this brother goes back, tries to reunite the family. Maybe it still doesn't work for whatever reason. Grandma dies. Spoiler alert. Sorry. And then the brother comes back, and then we spend the rest of the movie dealing with, yes, grandma is dead, but now we are back together, and we can kind of maybe wrap it up right around there, rather than also needing to cram another wedding into it with a character that's far, you know, less endearing and wanting of your screen time.
Well, and also the whole, you know, the hidden identity thing takes up a large portion of the second act, which essentially only exists because of the storyline with the sister.
Yes.
If it was just he goes to London, he could just be there convincing his brother or doing whatever and not having to do this whole, you don't know who I am, and I'm going to be just some, I mean, that is pulled straight out of DDLJ because SRK going as the friend and all of that is straight out of DDLJ, but it's done way better in DDLJ. Like because it's a main part of the story. It actually makes perfect narrative sense. Here, it just feels kind of tacked on.
So I think maybe we identify what we view as the second act problem.
Second and third act problem, or the
So if we just like removed that one character, getting rid of all of those little side plots that are very redundant because we're doing the exact same thing, right? He's marrying a girl from the same family that his father disapproved of. We're just doing the same damn thing. We don't need to do that. It was still going to be very impactful and meaningful and emotional had you let it be a brother and father-son story and ultimately about family and just left it there.
And I think you could still have those emotionally impactful scenes between Amitabh and SRK where, you know, they're having their kind of final meeting at the end of the movie where they're coming back together after 10 years of not talking to each other. I think those scenes would still have a lot of emotional impact because nothing with the Hrithik Roshan's story really feeds into that. SRK's emotional journey throughout the movie and him rediscovering his relationship with his brother has nothing to do with his brother getting married.
No.
Nothing at all.
And I'm kind of surprised that he wouldn't recognize his brother. I get that it was a significant transformation, but mannerisms, like some mannerisms just don't go away.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. I always have a hard
that none of them would recognize it because it's the brother, wife, and also her aunt who was like very close to the family to begin with.
Yeah.
So none of them really recognize him. So as we talk about it, I can definitely see where we could trim to
like, I get it. It's just, I don't know. That kind of took me out of the moment when I'm like, really? You're using your dad's name.
Yeah.
Hey, no one's catching this weird coincidence.
Like, weird. Like, and there's a couple moments where they like linger on the eyes, like, oh, does someone know? And it's like, no, they're just gonna float. Okay, never mind. Blow right past.
The first scene between Hrithik Roshan and SRK is a little,
oh man.
it comes too early, right?
Yeah.
If it needed to exist at all, because again, like I actually completely agree. I think that the idea that no one can recognize him. I mean, is this, people might say, oh, it's just nitpicking, like, or you're being overly critical. I don't think it is, because it's actually
when it can be removed.
Well, and to Jess's point, it's a main part of this movie. It is the second act of this movie. Into the third act, frankly, is this, oh, we don't recognize him. He lost weight. He didn't have plastic surgery.
Exactly.
Right.
A different actor is playing him grown up, because you can't age a child actor magically overnight.
Right.
It's supposed to be the grown-up version of the kid that you've seen.
Right. So it's fine if the character recognizes him, because the character would be aware in some capacity.
Right. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, given that it's not like they didn't know one another, or that he was born after he left
for years.
That would be how you do it.
Like, it's like, what is the time jump between the
10 years? It's 10 years. 10 years. So have the mom be pregnant with a child at the end of the first act, and then that kid is grown up, or it's like a baby, and then it's grown up, and then it makes sense why he doesn't know what he looks like.
Right.
Never seen. He's only seen a baby picture of him. He's never seen a picture of him grown up.
Yes.
There you go. And you don't have to have a love story for no reason with a character that is just one-dimensional and grating, to say the least. That character actively drags the movie down. It does. It's unfortunate, because again, it's just a poorly written character that leans on like the worst stereotypes in Western like rom-com writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that ultimately the biggest is that a lot of the script gets in its own way, for like it just kind of ends up walking itself in a circle for a good majority until it knew where it wanted to go. I see that. Like, I do think that this, it's very clear point A to B to C where we were going to go. But yeah, I think it just gets too wrapped up in itself.
Well, it becomes focused on telling another love story in a movie that doesn't really need another love story. I mean, again, the love story between and the relationship building between SRK and Kajol effectively happens all off screen. I mean, we see an hour and 40 minutes of it, but there's 10 years that we don't see, where they grow as a husband and wife, and we never see it, and they even have a kid. So it feels like the second act of the movie sacrificed being around SRK and Kajol to be around the Kareena Kapoor character. And in doing so, it just kind of, like you mentioned, Jessica, just gets the movie off into these weird tangents.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like you fell asleep and woke up in a different movie for a second. It's like, what?
Who are these people?
Wait, they have a kid now?
Right.
Well, and yeah, I mean, again, the fact that Kareena Kapoor and Hrithik Roshan aren't in the first hour and 40 minutes of this movie. Again, one of them, I'm glad they weren't in it, but the other one, whenever Hrithik Roshan is on screen with the rest of the cast, he is really good. And the movie does suffer by not having him in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything else?
Man. I mean, it was a hoot and holler, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, it's still a good movie.
It just has a higher degree of cheese than usual, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just interesting choices were made on it.
Well, I think ultimately the movie knows the story it's telling. I just don't think that. I don't think that, like you've mentioned, I don't think, Jess, the story doesn't need to double back on itself with the story it's already told. Because it doesn't do anything the second time around differently.
No.
It's not like the son getting married to the sister is somehow the father's mind has changed.
No.
Yeah.
No, it just
his mind changed because it's 10 years later, and it's like, oh right, you stuck to your guns and you actually didn't come back, and you did.
Yeah,
that scene at the end of the movie is worth the 3.5 hours. It really is to get to that point.
100%.
But it shouldn't take 3.5 hours. That's the problem.
No, and it kind of has the feeling that you get with like the ensemble movies that had a few test audiences and they were wanting to cater to every single like age group and dynamic in that, because it seemed like it was very family centric. So maybe they threw in just this wacky character for the young people because they don't understand that you can still just have a goofy character that still is an important character, like well-rounded. It just, some of the decisions seemed like it was made in the lab as opposed to coming from, this is the story I want to tell and push it through. I think the core is, for sure. It's just a couple stray decisions that probably were pushed on the creative team for that one.
DDLJ came out and SRK and Kajol were not the pair that they are now at this point. Mm-hmm. You can't recapture lightning in a bottle, no matter how hard you try. I mean, you varying degrees of success could be had. Kuch Kuch Hota Hai is fun, and I think it's probably the better sequel to DDLJ. It is not 3.5 hours. It is more of Kajol and SRK. So you don't have to be disappointed that you're not getting someone else because they're just not in it at all anyway.
Right.
But, I think it's admirable that this movie is, like you've mentioned, Maggie, a movie that has a very serious core message, a kind of core tenet of beliefs that's dictating the direction the movie is going.
Yes.
But it is still funny. It is still a fun movie that, like you mentioned, Jess, you can get through in one sitting, and it's 3.5 hours and it doesn't feel like it. And there aren't a lot of movies that are 3 hours plus that don't feel like they're 3 hours plus, which for many of us, if you watch a 3.5 hour movie in your day, that's like a fourth of your day gone.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a lot of time. That's a lot of time to sit and watch one movie, and effectively it's almost 3 movies. 2 movies worth of movie.
Right. But also, I mean, look, now are the days that we watch like 7 or 8 hours worth of television show in one straight sitting. So
I agree. I'm just saying, for some people to watch just one singular thing, maybe. Sure, yeah. And this does feel like 2 movies kind of strapped together at the hip. And a lot of these Indian cinema films that I've seen don't feel like that. This one does. And there are a couple other movies that have this time jump thing. I think Kuch Kuch Hota Hai actually has a time jump thing as well, because it shows the opening where the mom is dead, and then they go and tell the story of when they were at school, and then it jumps back to the present. So, maybe that could have worked here to better effect, so that instead of feeling like you have to tell the whole story to get to the point, you're just telling the flashback parts or interspersing the flashbacks throughout the movie. I don't know. Right. An hour and a half or hour 40 of the intro of the movie or the prelude to the actual movie is a bit much. There's no way it won't be now, then, or forever. If that's the setup for your movie is a full movie. That's, I mean, it is. I mean, the movie's 3.5 hours long. There's a setup movie for your movie is what it feels like.
A prequel movie attached to your movie.
And that's after a weird interview format intro followed by a photo montage credit sequence. And then you're just getting hit over the head with past stuff.
The movie is really focused on setting the stage for the things to come, and actually sitting here and thinking about it, given where we kind of came down on the movie, I think the first act of the movie may be the best part of it.
I do enjoy it, but from beginning to end, it does seem like almost 2 separate movies. You're right. It's kind of a little link in with a weird center.
It's unfortunate because it should feel like one complete narrative. It just doesn't. And I think that's the biggest knock against this movie is the second act or the second half of the movie just doesn't, for me, it doesn't hang with the first half. As good as the second half can be, I don't think it hits the highs of the first half.
Right. Nope, I would agree. All in all, the journey was well worth it. It's just, sometimes happy, sometimes eh.
Yeah, boy, ain't that the truth. So Maggie, final thoughts on K3G?
Man, I mean, it's worth a watch. I just think that if you wanted to get that rom-com scratch itched, I would go with DDL, or, I mean, there's a bunch of other ones. It's not the worst family feature, but it was fun. It's just a bit meandering. So I'd say if you even split it into a 2-parter, that would be awesome. Just have 2 different nights. Do first half, second half.
Jess?
I mean, yeah, I agree. It's DDL is, if we're talking about, between the last time we talked about Indian cinema versus now, DDL is definitely a better than one I'm going to go with. But yeah, I mean,
I feel like I definitely cried at the end. Yeah.
it was,
You're
yes,
right, Chris.
it did get,
The wind-up
emotional.
was at least worth for that punch impact.
It did connect with me in that specific, way. And that's why I would ultimately like to have seen this been more focused on that aspect of the family in the latter half of the movie than the other thing. But overall, yeah, it's a good movie. It's the dance sequences. I mean, anytime I watch Bollywood movies, I am just amazed and astounded and perplexed how they can even shoot something like that. Like just with how just intense the choreography and blocking and everything that goes into it. Even if I didn't like the music sequences all the time, they're all just so kind of enamoring to watch. But
yeah, it's a spectacle piece. It's really cool.
Just imagine if George Clooney was out there dancing like that, right? I mean,
I wish more movies had just random as fuck dance sequences.
If you're going to be an Indian actor, you have to be multi-talented. You got to be able to dance and sing and do choreography.
Yeah, you got to be like,
it really is.
Got to be a quad threat. The total pack. Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I'm biased. DDLJ is a movie that I think about often, and I don't watch it nearly enough. But this movie is fun. This is the third or fourth time I've seen it because I did watch it earlier this year when I thought we were doing this episode with somebody else, and that ended up not happening. So watched it again 2 more times now for this. So it's fun. It is a little long in the tooth. I think there are moments of emotional peaks and then there are character lows that are just hard to kind of sit with in the same movie because they're written by the same person. So there is that, there's only one name on the written by, and it's Karan Johar. So take full credit for the successes and for the failures, but it's a fun movie. It's a little long, and it's a little long because of some kind of interesting choices that were made that I don't think they needed to make to get to the same, they don't have to go to A, B, B1, B2, B3. You can just go to C. You don't have to take a fucking detour just because you want to. Maybe if you just want to, cool, I get it, but don't take a detour for our sake. Like sometimes more is not better.
Yeah.
So until the next time we do one of these episodes, where could people find you on the internet, Jess?
You can find me on Instagram at writer Jess Byard. Pretty much everything I do somehow gets there at some point. Magically. It just poofs on. I have no idea.
What about you, Maggie?
You can find me at dolanmuseum.com. And I also have a YouTube at Dolan the Odd.
And as for me, you can find me and this show and a whole host of other shows at weirdingwaymedia.com. It's a podcast network that we set up for all the stuff that we work on. So stuff that Jess and I have worked on, like the 1-season show, stuff like Maggie and I have worked on, the Lost Tapes Chronicles over at Scary Stories We Tell. That's where you can find all of that. And if you can't find it there, maybe you shouldn't be listening. As for this show, BollywoodCinemaClub.com, that's where you can go for this show. But, just go there and listen to the show. Listen, rate, review on iTunes or wherever you get the show. Social media sucks and nobody wants to interact with it. Maggie, Jess, thank you both so much for joining me. This was fun. Maybe next time the movie won't be almost 4 hours long.
We're here for it though.
That's fair. And we'll catch you on the next episode.